Hi there. Now, I'm sure many of you will have heard that we finally got some settled weather on the way. But before we take a look at that, let's take a look back at October, which was a rather unsettled month. And you can see here this map showing the radar estimated rainfall anomaly for October as a whole. And you can see with all these blue colours across the map, for many places it was much wetter than average. Quite a lot of rainfall, particularly across southern Britain in the first 10 days of the month. Some really wet weather here, resulting in some places even sort of double the amount of rainfall as is average for October, so quite wet. Only a few places across the UK escaping in those sort of white, those brown colours indicating closer to normal or slightly drier than average conditions, but all in all quite a wet month and also quite cloudy and quite dull, with many places seeing the second dullest October on record for some places. So not a great month, but it does look like there is a glimmer of hope in the horizon. So let's take a look at the forecast. We'll start with the jet stream. So currently looking quite strong, with things looking quite unsettled at the moment at the start of the week. But as we go through sort of the next week, it does look like this sort of this part of the jet stream will move sort of southwards and weaken somewhat, while the sort of upper portion of the jet stream does tend to sort of head northwards. So that will allow high pressure to build in between those two areas across the middle of the UK. So we're looking for some good weather as we move into the latter part of this week. So let's take a look in a little bit more detail for the start of Wednesday. It does look like there might still be a few sort of lingering showers around, but otherwise it looks like many places will have a dry and bright start, and there is the risk of a few mist or fog patches across southern Britain and even some frost, so definitely something to watch out for. But otherwise, as high pressure ridges in from the west through the day, many places will become dry and bright with plenty of sunshine, so some nice weather on the way for many places. Just the chance of some thicker cloud or a few spots of rain across parts of northern Scotland as a warm front skims these areas through the day. So as we go into the day on Thursday, could just be a few spots of rain, some thicker cloud in northern parts at first, but otherwise it does look like another frosty start for many places, particularly in the south, and also the risk of some quite widespread mist and fog on Thursday morning, so something to watch out for. But generally over the next few days, conditions dominated bit by this area of high pressure, which is spreading eastwards, and for Friday and Saturday as well, bringing the risk of some mist and fog patches at first, as well as some frost for many places. But generally quite a nice couple of days with plenty of sunny spells and light winds. As we go into Saturday, things will sort of start to change a little bit as we go into sort of late afternoon, evening, and we get this area of low pressure pushing this cold front up from the south. But we'll have more on that in a minute. Let's take a quick look at the spraying conditions over the next few days. So if you're wanting to get some work done, we've got a great weather window at the moment. You can see these green colours across the map indicating light winds and dry conditions. So not just great for spraying, but great for getting any sort of work done on the farm. So it really is a good forecast over the next few days. So let's take a look a little bit further ahead towards the end of the weekend. So as we said, into sort of Saturday night, Sunday, this area of low pressure pushing that front northwards, so bringing a few spells of rain to places for the end of the weekend, but also introducing a bit more of a southerly flow, so drawing up some milder conditions from the south as well for the end of the weekend and the start of next week. As we go into Monday and Tuesday, there'll be a few spells of rain around. There'll also be some drier and brighter intervals too. Looking towards the middle of next week, there is a chance that this area of low pressure will approach the UK from the west, and there's a bit of uncertainty in this at the moment and exactly where this will track. So definitely a forecast to keep an eye on. Some of the ideas sort of showing that this area of low pressure could just sort of track northwards, bringing just a few sort of spells of rain to western parts and leaving eastern parts relatively untouched by this, so a drier kind of story. But there's also the potential for that to spread that front eastwards, so more places seeing more widespread rain. So definitely a forecast to keep an eye on. And as always, if there's ever some uncertainty in the forecast, your best place to go is our Weatherquest forecast hotline. We're here every day between 6 a.m. and 6 p.m. and the number to call is 09065 777675, with calls costing £1.55 a minute plus network access charges, and we'll always be happy to answer your questions. So let's take a look at the chance of a dry day, see how this matches up with sort of what we've been saying for the forecast. So over the next 4 days, it's looking pretty good. We've got widespread sort of brown colours across the chart here, indicating a very high chance of a dry day. So plenty of dry weather across the country. But as we go into Sunday, signals for things to sort of start to break down a little bit as that front moves up from the south. So a little more in the way of unsettled weather. Now, as we did talk about sort of a few moments ago, with the sort of middle of the week, there is the potential for some rain to spread into northern and western parts. But as to sort of how far east that gets, it's still a bit of a question mark, with a lot of brown colours still across southern and eastern parts, indicating dry weather continues for a time here as high pressure remains close by. So definitely something to keep an eye on for next week, but it does look like we could see a continuation of those settled conditions in the south and east, while things become slightly more unsettled in the north and west. Now, looking further ahead into sort of the second part of November, we see a return of these sort of green colours across the map, so generally hinting that things become slightly more unsettled for many places. But if you do look at sort of southern and eastern parts, we're still in those sort of white colours, a few of those browns in there too, so things might, those settled conditions might hang on a little bit longer here. Now, with settled conditions and high pressure, there does come the risk of frost at this time of year. And you can see over the next sort of 4 days or so, particularly in southern parts, with those clear skies overnight, we do have a low to medium risk of frost at times. So definitely something to keep an eye on, and across northern and western parts at times as well. But particularly in the south, that is something to bear in mind. But as we go into sort of Sunday and we introduce that southerly flow, things will turn milder, that risk of frost diminishing somewhat, only returning as we go right towards the end of the month again. So just the next couple of days to keep an eye on. And you might be thinking, oh, it's quite late in the year. For many places, this could be the first air frost of the autumn season. But in actual fact, for East Anglia, the latest first air frost of autumn was recorded on the 5th of November. So we are approaching that date there, but it does look like we'll probably get a frost in the next couple of days. But on average, the first autumn air frost is much earlier. Looking at the sort of the 1981 to 2010 average, we normally have the first autumn air frost by the 4th of October. But there is a sign that this is getting later. Taking the average from 1990 to 2019, you can see that this goes to the 10th of October. So there's a bit of change there. Interesting bit of information for you. But either way, it does look like we've got some frosty mornings expected. So do keep an eye on the forecast for that. So let's finish off with our monthly forecast then, and this is the pressure anomaly for week 2, and you can see that high pressure has drifted to the east, but it's still centred across sort of southern parts of Scandinavia, so it's still quite nearby. So it will have a bit of an influence on our weather as we go into week 2. Obviously, we've got the potential for those sort of weak fronts to spread across the UK at times, so I'm not saying it will be completely dry. I think there will be some spells of rain in there at times for sure, but generally sort of eastern parts in particular looking like we'll have more in the way of dry weather to come. And you can see that very well reflected in the precipitation anomaly as well. A lot of the brown colours across Europe and indeed much of Britain indicating drier than average conditions. Just a few parts of sort of Western Britain starting to get a little bit closer to or maybe slightly wetter than average. Temperatures sort of remaining in those sort of higher than normal conditions, those red colours across much of the map there, indicating that sort of southerly flow, bringing up those warm, milder conditions, relatively warm conditions, while sort of southeastern parts of Europe are in the sort of below average temperatures there. Now, as we go into week 3, we've still kind of got high pressure around, but it has drifted sort of further eastwards and starting to weaken a little bit. So we'll still see the influence of that across some eastern parts of the UK, but it looks like as we go into week 3, we might have the potential for a more sort of low pressure influence coming in from the west. So potential for things to turn slightly more unsettled as we go into week 3. And you can see that has brought a couple of those green colours to western parts of the UK as well for that week there. But we are hanging on to a few of the sort of closer to or drier than average conditions in the eastern parts. So it could end up being quite a good week for eastern parts. Still looks like we'll hang on to those above average temperatures though. You can see those pink colours and those red colours still in sort of similar places to week 2. So not much change there. Now, as we go into week 4, not really any sort of strong signals. It does look like that area of high pressure has now sort of shifted and weakened away to the southeast. So opening up for sort of slightly more unsettled conditions to continue. And you can see there's a lot of variability across the map of Europe. Some areas of green, some areas of brown, but lots of places in those white colours, those normal conditions for the time of year, and indeed quite variable across the UK as well. Looking at the temperature anomaly, it looks for us that we will return to normal as we go into week 4, although those warmer than average temperatures will continue across some other parts of Europe. So let's summarise then. So the next couple of days do look like they'll be settled. Finally got some settled weather on the way. There'll be light winds and plenty of sunshine, but do just watch out for those mist and fog patches and those frosty mornings. As we go into Sunday, things will turn more unsettled from the south with milder air coming up too. But as we go into next week, there'll be a bit of a mixture. High pressure will remain close by, so many places will be drier than average, but you should just watch out for a few spells of rain at times. And then as we go into the second part of November, it does look like we'll return to slightly more unsettled conditions, but definitely best to keep an eye on the forecast. Thanks so much for watching today's farming forecast. As always, we'd love to hear from you. Please get in touch with us on social media, or if you're watching on YouTube, please leave us a thumbs up and a comment below. Thanks for watching.